The pace of change in sales right now is actually accelerating. There's been more change in sales in the last few months than there has been in the last 20 years. Your organization will need to keep up with these changes for two reasons. One is your competition is keeping up. The other is your customers are keeping up. You'll want to look at what's changing in sales and determine if those changes are right for your organization as it relates to how you interact with your target markets. The three changes in sales, the three categories are: number one, demographics; number two, process; and number three, technology. Let's look at demographics for just a moment. What is your target market? Going forward in the future, what is your target market? Is it your current market or is there another one? If your current market is saturated, you might want to consider moving to a new area. Who else could you be selling to? Once you have a target market, you target the accounts within that market, obviously looking for the low-hanging fruit, and then you look at the buyers inside those target accounts. What is the demographic of the buyer? If they're a boomer or a buster, they're going to buy one way. If they're a Gen X, they're going to buy another way. If they're a millennial, they expect something different. So you want to look at who are the traditional buyers or typical buyers in those target accounts, and how do we go about addressing those? That leads us to the second element, which is process. If they are boomers and busters, the traditional sales process will probably be just fine. Yes, you can still make a sales call and open it with a bag of donuts. In some industries, markets, and circumstances, that will still work. But the opportunities for using that process are declining. If they are a younger demographic, then you want to start looking at some unconventional ways of going to market. What are some of the unconventional ways you could go to market? You start looking at the tools you give your salespeople. How do you touch the customer? Does it have to be a phone call? Could it be an email? If they're ignoring emails, do you need to have some other e-media available for your salespeople to use to touch your customers? So that brings us to technology. How do we change the technology that our salespeople possess? There's the low-tech approach. One example is a salesperson told me recently he was having trouble getting in to see a boomer. He found out that that boomer preferred a certain brand of shoes, and he got the boomer's shoe size, went to Nordstrom's, bought a pair of the shoes, and sent one of them to his prospect. Of course, he was able to get in, give the other shoe. That's a low-tech, but it's an interesting way of doing it. This is not the way we've done it in the past. What about high-tech? I'm seeing new versions of high-tech selling virtually every week. These things are amazing. You can look at something like an ROI or a TCO calculator. You can have that calculator on your website. The customer can come in and do a cost justification before they ever contact you. They know their ROI. They are able to compute their TCO by using your product simply by going to your website. Do your salespeople have access to this? You also want your salespeople to have access to that information if they're doing a face-to-face call or if they're contacting the customer by phone. So look at the three categories of change that are happening in sales and verify that you have a plan in place to improve each of them. Demographics. Are you selling to the same demographics as before, or is that shifting? And how do you go about changing the way you go to market? Process. Are you using the same old processes that you have in the past, and is it time for you to update those processes? What technological tools do you need that will help you go to the next level, help your salespeople sell at an even higher level? In the history of recorded time, no customer has ever said your price is too high and meant it. Teach others.